Open Journal of Arts and Letters. Sorry. And here we have Dierdre McKay, and I'm going to let her introduce herself, and we'll get started. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Dierdre McKay. I go by Didi McKay. So you see Didi, D-I-D-I a lot on my artwork. And I'm working in a lot of abstract patterns and designs right now, and I'm doing art on scrolls that you can roll up and take with you on your way places or when you travel. So I'm mixing some writing by writing poems on the back, and the front has, they're all different. And I'm doing it intuitively, so I'm not doing what I used to do, which was really exact portraiture. Now I'm doing abstract. So it's fun. I love it.
That's awesome. Tell us a little bit about yourself and some of your influences.
Okay, well, I teach yoga. I teach art. I love working with kids. I used to be a journalist.
Oh, what did you used to cover?
I'm very inquisitive. I worked covering a lot of business and fashion, and I did a lot of interviews with people. Love doing that, and I love finding out about people's motivations and their mantras and what drives them and that kind of thing. And then I worked in the children's museum field. So I developed programs with culture, arts, science, all different types of ways to learn through activities, moving, and yeah.
That's really fantastic. So how do you think that's affected your work?
Oh, it's affected my work a lot because I have had jobs that forced me to learn about a lot of different ways of life or businesses or meeting people and getting their motivations, but also it's taught me to listen more, observe more, and I'm really interested in science and nature. So at the museum, I loved learning about the rainforest and stuff. And now a lot of my work is influenced by patterns in nature, and then I abstract them and make them colorful.
That's so cool. How neat is that?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
So what do you think some of your biggest influences were from, like with the exception of the rainforest and the children's one? Was there like something in your foundation early on as an artist that changed the way you did things or the way you looked at things?
Yeah, I used to create programs with a team of educators at the museum, and we would create a program around the layers of the rainforest, for example, or the adaptations of animals. So it was a lot of looking at patterns, looking at skin coverings like a lizard or, camouflage. And so I just love learning about that. And then the layers of the rainforest and the trees. I do a lot of bark, things that look like bark, kind of like this sort of,
That's awesome.
Or maybe kind of, I don't know if you can see it. Might not be able to see it.
Yeah, they're coming up pretty good.
Oh, good. Okay. So a lot of just. Hi, Doggy.
Coming to the interview.
He's like, wait, what's she showing? Wait, I missed that one.
So why do you think you shifted from like incredibly technical portraiture to abstract? Was there something that happened, or were you just looking to broaden your horizons?
Yeah, I definitely had a change when I went to an artist and writer's retreat. I definitely recommend that to people. I did a barter, so I worked there part-time and got to do, I went there to write, to finish up a story. And I ended up always turning to a sketchbook to try to free up my thinking and just free up myself. I was having a lot of writer's block. It was too intense. And then I started just doing more and more. And then when I came back from France, it just kept coming out all over the place. Like every night I was doing a sketch. And then my daughter said, Mom, why don't you just do your Instagram for only your art? I said, okay. And so I'm doing that. And then I started doing these scrolls, and that took a lot of adapting, figuring out how to make them. And then some people said, oh, I really like that. Will you make me one? I'm making really big ones that can fit a big wall space. But also a lot of people want smaller ones. So they want a special message for a gift for somebody. So I do that too.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So definitely the turning point was when I was in France in a lot of nature, surrounded by nature, little tiny village. We had to go fill our water bottles every day at the source. And, so it was like fresh drinking water and just really being in touch with nature. And I'm really loving nature. I moved into a bird sanctuary, so I'm surrounded by.
Oh, wow. That is so cool.
Yeah, I moved from New York to Florida a couple of years ago. So a lot of changes. Yeah, I definitely recommend changing your environment, changing everything. I mean, I really miss some of my friends and some of my familiar hometown stuff, but it's really good. It's really inspiring to change up your whole atmosphere. I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it.
So what do you try to convey to your audience?
I try to make something beautiful or interesting. A lot of the stuff I do it because I really just have to do it. I have stuff going on in my mind, and it's cathartic and it's a release of energy. So that's number one. It's the selfish reason for me. I love to do it, but also I love to share it. I love to get feedback from people. I try to suppress my ego a little bit, but I do like encouraging words, and I love to share it. I love it when people say, "Oh, can you make me one of those?" So I've done some custom things. I just did a big custom painting of a tree, so I'm really obsessed with trees and bark. And it's in someone's house not far from here. So, yeah.
That's awesome. That is so cool. That's going to be gratifying too, though, to be able to, have somebody say, "Wow, I really like this. I'd like to possess a piece of your art." I mean, it's almost like, come into our home, like you're that good. So that's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, it is. It's really satisfying, especially for me, who have always had my art on the back burner and done it on my own time, when I was a journalist and trying to be really good at being a writer and then working at the museum. I had to make samples of every project, but I wasn't necessarily doing my own stuff. Sometimes I get a little absorbed in the sample, Dee, come on, you got to teach now. So yeah, it is. It's rewarding. Yeah.
That's awesome. What do you think motivated you to keep going with your art? Because you're as a journalist and then moving on to developing all these wonderful things to develop learning, and then here you are, and you're still pursuing art primarily. So why do you think what do you think motivates you to keep going? Sorry.
I just love seeing what comes out. So now I'm thinking I'm definitely going through a mind process where I'm allowing whatever flows out. And I don't know what to call it. I started calling it intuitive art, or I just get in the zone, and you get in the zone and you just go, you're an artist. Yeah. So I love to just see what comes out. And then I notice what comes up. I teach yoga. I'm a yoga teacher. And I'm trying to get better at meditating and teaching it. So I notice what comes into my thinking, and sometimes I'm like, oh no, you can't do that because that won't. And then I just do it anyway, just to see, and not even care what the outcome's going to be.
Do you think the yoga's helped develop that kind of just go with it anyway, even though it's like not conventional form of thinking?
In a way, yeah, that's a good point, because, yoga, when I first started doing it, it was sort of, this was maybe 17 years ago or something. Not as many people were doing it. It was a little bit odd. So you definitely have to not let other people's ideas influence you and really trust your gut. And yeah, it's important.
What do you think, what are some words of advice that you would give to a fledgling artist?
I would say just do it and try to get out of your head set yourself up for success. So even when you're not in the mood for doing it, maybe go out and buy some materials, or sometimes people give me materials. Oh, can you use these? I can't use these. These are for kids, or there's sparkly crayons. And I say, yes, I love sparkles. Or and then maybe set your, or travel or go somewhere, bring your sketchbook with you, bring your materials, put it next to your bed. I wind down at night by drawing a lot of times. So that's something I realized. So now that I know that, I put my stuff right next to my bed. And I'm so happy I get in bed, I've got my stuff, and I draw, and it just helps me wind down. So yeah, I would advise that, just to do what you love. Don't get discouraged. Don't listen to other people too, because a lot of times you hear people talking about things that are in their head and their roadblocks, and it's really easy to ride along with that and say, oh my gosh, you're right. Everybody's doing art. There's so many artists out there. Yeah. And they're all so good. Oh my gosh, they're all so good. And I'm, just don't listen to your own self-talk or listen to it and acknowledge it, but then you can change it up. You can always make a change.
That's a really good point, because I was talking about that earlier, and it was just one of those things where it's like, it's really hard to get past that mentality that, there's always going to be somebody better than you. There's always going to be some artwork that's more complex than what you're capable of doing. And it's a really good point to make, is that if you just focus on your own craft and focus on what you're doing and making sure that it's making you happy, I think that's a really good perspective to have, kind of put on the blinders. It's okay. Everybody's going to have something to say, and you can't make everybody happy all the time. So I think that's a really good, piece of advice. Absolutely.
That's important. And like they say about, in general, people, everyone knows something that you don't know, and that somebody else doesn't know. And so if you start to judge yourself, then you get into some trouble. So, and you do something that your living experience has informed and inspired, and you bring it in, and it's and it doesn't matter, and don't put labels on it like, oh, this is really good, oh, this sucks, oh my god, I can't believe it. I mean, for yourself whether you like something or you don't like the way it came out, because you're trying to force it. So yeah.
That's true. What was your aha moment?
Aha moment recently, I would say, do you mean in general when you started art as a kid, or recently?
You can cover both if you'd like.
Yeah. When I was in France at the artist retreat, La Muse, by the way, is the name of the artist retreat. La Muse, it's in La Bastide Esperberanque in Le Montenoir in southeast France. And when I was there, the way it's situated is it's in a valley, sort of the Black Mountains. It's rolling hills. And when I was there, like I told you before about, I went to write and then the art kept flowing out. Mm-hmm. That moment, I almost remember the exact moment where I put my writing aside, took out my sketchbook, and started noticing, Dee Dee, you keep going to your sketchbook. You're putting the writing away. And it could be just a phase where I'm putting the writing aside. I'll always come back to the writing too, because that's another way to express. Mm-hmm. And I do children's books. Here's one of my children's books.
What is it? I can't read it. Gift of the Animal? That was awesome.
So, and I love how you're helping artists. What I did here was I had all these different artists contribute.
That's fantastic.
And then I put a little bio about each one. So I love working in a team, and they all had a different type of art. So I asked each of them to do, okay, you do a collage, you do computer art, you do pastels, you do pencil, you do watercolor. So it's educational for kids. I'm a children's museum educator, so I'm working on a couple more books. So working with an art. So yes, really, that was the aha. That was the aha. That I also really love the art. as well as the writing. And I flow more into the art. It's just more natural.
It's really interesting to discover, because having been because writing for me from a third party perspective is very technical. And there's outlines, and there's, certain moves that you have to make in order to create something that's understandable. And then art is completely the opposite. There's no rules, no regulations, there's no expectations. So it's neat that you're able to shift so completely.
That's such a good point. Yeah. And that's one thing I love about the art, is it just lets the free part of my brain just flow out, where as the writing is, it's very structured. And what's your lead going to be? What's your opener sentence? How are you going to construct it chronologically and all that? Whereas the art, it's just like, oh, this looks pretty. This looks nice. This has a really nice, there are certain things that work in art, composition, or maybe having it asymmetrical, or being really off kilter, and how that affects the viewer. There are a lot of tricks and trompe l'oeil and a whole bunch of things you can do with art, but I think the writing and the art complement each other. So that's another thing that might help other artists is, switch it up sometimes. Maybe, I'm feeling a little stuck here, so I'm going to do something really silly and crazy and not beat myself up if I don't like how it looks. I'm just getting it out. Because when you're an artist, you just have to do it. You're tactile.
Yeah. I definitely understand that. Just some of those days when you come home and you're like, there's so much here. I just need to put it somewhere else. But do you think that being able to express yourself artistically has influenced your writing at all?
That's a good question. I'm sure it has. I haven't spent that much time analyzing that, but it probably has, because it's freed up what they say is your right brain. And then if I have something that I want to incorporate, like let's say I want to do art with writing, like I did a collage. I did this collage. Oh, the light's really bad. But and after I finished it, I put a whole bunch of words in there.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see it?
I can.
So I just mixed it. So my mom was like, why'd you write all that stuff on it? Oh my God. Because it looked fine before. And I said, I don't know. I just did. It just came out.
The artist sentiment, it just happened.
Yeah. So sometimes you take a little chance, and yeah, but so the writing probably has informed and freed up my brain a little bit.
So with the exception of cathartic release and the ability to educate children, is there any other reason that you do art?
I just love creating beautiful things. I if I wasn't doing the art, I would be making jewelry. I've done that, or I just would be constantly rearranging my furniture in my house, or getting dressed in an interesting way, or it's creativity in different forms.
That's awesome. Do you have any closing remarks for us? Anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to put out?
No, I think I told you about the scrolls.
Mm-hmm.
You asked me to have some art in the background, so I tried to have some art in the background. So you can see one of the scrolls on the wall there in the background. Mm-hmm. They're big.
It's a fantastic color scheme.
Yeah, and then I have another one over here that's big. I'm working really big with these scrolls. Can you see that one in the background? No.
I can, yeah, absolutely. So what are they made of? Because it looks like they're is it fabric or paint, or is it canvas?
Yeah, it's canvas.
And then is it brush or different kinds of objects?
I do everything. Sometimes I use my fingers. I use paint on brushes. I use paint pens. And the thing about this is that this is somebody had this one in their house, and I'm redoing it for them. But sometimes I do a lot of these bark sort of patterns, and then this can roll up. So this rolls, and I can just throw it in the car. It gets like this when it's rolled.
Mm-hmm.
Just throw it in my car and bring it wherever.
That's awesome. So that really, like, takes away the difficulty of traveling with paintings, because I'm sure that you've moved with paintings before and you've got them all, you know, half of the truck is built full of pillows so that none of them break or shatter or get marred in any way.
Yeah, when you have stuff framed. So I'm still trying to develop the best way to do it, but yeah, they're not breakable. You can touch them, you know, you could put them on your tabletop if you wanted to, or, you know, I want to work really big, maybe in lobbies, or, you know, when you go somewhere and you don't like the art.
Yeah.
It's dark or depressing, you know, I want it to be bright and uplifting.
That's wonderful. I want to thank you for being with us here today, and I think that it's really wonderful for you to have taken your time out, and not only to devote your time to building your children's books and in your educational learning and all that, but also giving, you know, artists on this side of the house and all over the world a better perspective and another opportunity to learn from somebody in their community. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And have a beautiful day.